Hello students. Now we are starting with the lectures of the cardiovascular system. First disease we are going to discuss is hypertension. To understand the hypertension, we should first know what is blood pressure. Generally, the term blood pressure refers to arterial blood pressure. And what is arterial blood pressure? It is defined as the lateral pressure exerted by the column of blood on wall of arteries. Blood pressure is of different varieties. First is systolic blood pressure. Normal systolic blood pressure is 120 mmHg. Diastolic blood pressure. Normal diastolic blood pressure is 80 mmHg. Pulse pressure is usually systolic minus diastolic, that is 40 mmHg, and mean arterial pressure is equal to diastolic blood pressure plus one third of the pulse pressure, means 80 plus 40 by 3 is equal to 93.3 mmHg. And this blood pressure usually corresponds with the systole and diastole of the cardiac cycle, which you have learnt in the first year of physiology classes. When aortic valve open and systole start, it creates certain pressure which is measured as systolic, and diastolic pressure usually reflect the diastolic phase of the cardiac cycle. We are not going into details of the cardiac cycle now, as you have learned that in first year of your curriculum. Now we understand the variations into blood pressure. Blood pressure is not a constant phenomena. It may change according to the physiological situations like age. As the age advances, the blood pressure increases. Sex. Blood pressure is usually higher into males as compared to female. Body build, diurnal variation, after sleep, after meals, emotional conditions, after exercise. These are the conditions where physiologically blood pressure changes. If someone is passing through some emotional excitement or emotional condition, blood pressure may be increased. Same way, if person is measuring the blood pressure immediately after doing exercise, it is going to be high, and as opposite to that, blood pressure will be lower while sleeping, because during the sleep parasympathetic system predominate, which leads to decrease in the blood pressure. But these all are physiological variation and body will try to adjust them. But whenever the variations becomes pathological or the control mechanism fail to adjust the blood pressure, then there are two variations into the blood pressure. When blood pressure goes higher than the normal value, it is called as hypertension, and when blood pressure goes below the normal value, it is called as hypotension. Now we briefly discuss which anatomical sites are responsible for the control of blood pressure. First is arterioles, which are also called as resistance vessel. Second is venules, which are called as capacitance vessels, and they are attached with each other with the help of capillary bed. These three together will form a circulatory system. Along with it, most important organ is heart, which is maintaining the blood pressure by adjusting the cardiac output. Kidneys will help in the control of blood pressure by adjusting the volume, and brain, of course, every function of the brain is controlled through the every function of the body is controlled through the brain, and blood pressure is controlled through the vasomotor center located into the brain. There are baroreceptors also and chemoreceptors also, which help in control of the blood pressure. Baroreflexes that are controlled by autonomic nervous system and humoral mechanism, including renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, coordinate these anatomical sites in body. And the difference between the normal and hypertensive patient is that baroreceptors are set to higher level in the hypertensive patients. Now we see the regulation of the arterial blood pressure. Body has four main regulatory mechanisms to maintain the blood pressure within normal limit. These regulatory mechanisms are shown here. First is nervous mechanism, that is by vasomotor center located into the brain and impulses from the periphery. Second is renal mechanism, which act by regulation of extracellular fluid volume, and renin angiotensin mechanism. There are hormonal mechanisms. Certain hormones are released which cause vasoconstriction, and some hormone will produce vasodilatation. And there are certain local mechanisms that is by means of local vasoconstrictor and dilators, blood pressure can be maintained. Now we first discuss this mechanism one by one. Neuronal and cardiovascular mechanism for regulation of blood pressure, especially short-term regulation. First is baroreceptor reflex. Baroreceptors are located at the base of the aorta and they will sense the pressure changes which are passing through the aortic blood. So whenever blood pressure increases into the aorta, baroreceptors detect the changes into this arterial blood pressure. And through the glossopharyngeal nerve, they send a signal to the medulla oblongata of the brain where the vasomotor center is located. Now vasomotor center will identify that there is increase in the blood pressure, so they will send a signal through the vagus nerve, and vagus nerve is stimulated, which will send a signal to heart, and vagal stimuli predominate, which leads to decrease in the heart rate and blood pressure. This is how baroreceptor will help in controlling the blood pressure. Second such short-term regulatory mechanism is chemoreceptor reflex. Whenever there is decrease into the blood pressure, decreased blood flow occur and stagnation of the flow into the aorta occur, which leads to decreased oxygen supply to the tissues and decreased carbon dioxide uptake from the tissues. Because the blood supply is not going into the tissues, oxygenation decreases and the carbon dioxide produced by the tissues cannot be taken back from the tissues. So ultimately decreased oxygen and increased CO2 in the tissues will be there, which will stimulate the chemoreceptors. Chemoreceptors will be stimulated by the chemical signals like hypoxia and increased carbon dioxide. The stimulation of chemoreceptor will lead to stimulation of 9th and 10th cranial nerves, which will lead to stimulation of medullary respiratory center and vasomotor center, and that will send a signal to increase the sympathetic outflow, so the blood pressure increases. This is how the chemoreceptors will be helping when there is decrease in the blood pressure, and they will try to maintain it. Second mechanism is the hormonal mechanism for the regulation of blood pressure, which is also called as intermediate regulation. In this table you can see the hormones which increases the arterial blood pressure and hormones which decreases the arterial blood pressure. The first hormone which increases the arterial blood pressure is adrenaline. You have learnt into sympathetic system that adrenaline causes increase in the heart rate, increase in the systolic blood pressure and decrease into the diastolic blood pressure. Ultimately it is a hormone related with the stress and it will stimulate the blood pressure. Noradrenaline, it mainly act on the alpha receptors and beta 1 receptor. It is the strongest vasoconstrictor substance which would lead to increase in the systolic and diastolic blood pressure both. Same way, thyroxine is a hormone which causes increase in the rate and force of the contraction of the heart, increase in the cardiac output, systolic BP increases and diastolic BP decreases. Decrease in the diastolic BP is due to release of metabolite due to increased metabolic activity and decreased total peripheral resistance, which is secondary to thyroxine release. Aldosterone will cause retention of salt and water, ultimately cause increase in the ECF volume and blood volume expansion occurs, which leads to hypertension. Vasopressin will cause retention of water and vasopressure will act through the vasoconstriction and ultimately cause increase in the blood pressure. Angiotensin, which cause constriction of the systemic arterioles and lead to increase in the blood pressure, and serotonin, it will also increase the blood pressure. Now we come to the hormones which decreases the arterial blood pressure. One of them is vasoactive intestinal peptide. In simpler term, parasympathetic system related hormone will decrease the blood pressure and sympathetic system related hormones will increase the blood pressure. Vasoactive intestinal peptide, which is secreted from the stomach and it produces vasodilatation and cause decrease in the blood pressure. Same way, bradykinin and prostaglandin are released during inflammation and they act as vasodilator and cause decrease in the blood pressure. Histamine is released into the body in large quantity in an allergic condition, inflammatory condition or whenever there is tissue damage and it produces hypotension. Acetylcholine, that is the main mediator of parasympathetic system, it decreases the blood pressure. Other is arterial natriuretic peptide and brain natriuretic peptide. Arterial natriuretic peptide is produced by atrial musculature of the heart, and it produces reduction into the blood pressure. Now we come to the renal mechanism for regulation of blood pressure, that is the long term regulation. Whenever there is decrease into the blood pressure in the body, it will stimulate the juxtaglomerular apparatus located into the renal parenchymal tissue. This JG cell will cause release of the renin. Renin is a substance which will carry out the conversion of angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. This angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2 with the help of the enzyme angiotensin converting enzyme, shortly known as ACE. This angiotensin 2 is further converted into angiotensin 3 with the help of angiotensinases. This angiotensin 2, 3 and 4 all are strong vasoconstrictor substances. So vasoconstriction occurs, which means there is increase in the peripheral resistance, and increase in the blood pressure occurs, which would take the blood pressure to the normal level. Other function of angiotensin 2 is it will act on the adrenal cortex, and adrenal cortex will be stimulated to release aldosterone. Aldosterone will act on the kidneys and produces reabsorption of the sodium and water, which would lead to increase into the ECF volume, and increase in the preload and increase in the blood pressure will be there as a result. So if we compare the duration wise, neurological, that is chemoreceptor and baroreceptor mechanism, are responsible for short term regulation of the blood pressure. Hormonal mechanisms like adrenaline, acetylcholine, vasoactive peptides, thyroxine, etc., they will be responsible for the intermediate regulation of blood pressure, and renin-angiotensin system is responsible for the long term regulation of the blood pressure. Now we see the factors which maintain the blood pressure. Arterial blood pressure is directly proportionate to the cardiac output, heart rate, peripheral resistance, blood volume, venous return, velocity of the blood and viscosity of the blood. And arterial blood pressure is inversely proportionate to the elasticity of the blood vessel and diameter of the blood vessel. Now we see the determinant of the blood pressure. Blood pressure is nothing but it is calculated from cardiac output and peripheral vascular resistance. Cardiac output into peripheral vascular resistance would give you the blood pressure. What is cardiac output? Cardiac output is equal to heart rate into stroke volume. Heart rate is under the control of sympathetic system or autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic system or adrenergic system will increase the heart rate. Catecholamine will increase the heart rate, and cholinergic system or vagus system will decrease the heart rate. Stroke volume is calculated from it is contractility into preload. Heart contractility is increased by adrenergic system and catecholamine, and preload is calculated from vascular tone and intravenous volume. Preload is the amount of blood which reaches the right atrium before the pumping action start. Vascular tone is under the control of catecholamine, and adrenergic system will increase the vascular tone, and IV volume is under the control of sodium and water. Adrenergic system will increase the sodium and water, aldosterone, ADH. These three will be increasing the sodium and water retention, increase in the IV volume occurs, so increase in the preload, which will lead to increase in the stroke volume, and cardiac output increases, ultimately blood pressure increases. While natriuretic peptide will decrease the blood pressure through opposing action. Now second parameter which is mainly determining the systolic blood pressure is the peripheral vascular resistance. Peripheral vascular resistance can be direct, can be circulatory, or it can be local. Direct resistance is under the control of alpha-1 receptor. You all know that alpha-1 receptor located into the blood vessel is responsible for the vasoconstriction, and they will cause, if the vessel is constricted, the blood has to pass through more resistance, so resistance increases. Circulatory, whenever angiotensin 2 is more or catecholamines are more, there is a more peripheral vascular resistance. And endothelin, angiotensin 2, oxygen, nitrous oxide, prostacyclin, hydrogen, adenosine, they will cause increase or decrease level of the peripheral vascular resistance. At the local level, they will be released at the site, produce the action and immediately removed from the site. So if you can remember this chart, you can remember all the factors which determine the blood pressure. And from this chart we can see that main role into the control of blood pressure is of sympathetic system, parasympathetic system, renin-angiotensin system and certain local hormones. Now we see that the increased cardiac output will usually a result of increased cardiac preload, increased fluid volume from excess sodium intake or renal sodium retention that would lead to increased cardiac output or sympathetic system overactivity. In a way, this would lead to development of hypertension. Increased peripheral resistance is a functional vascular constriction, excess stimulation of renin-angiotensin system, sympathetic nervous system overactivity, genetic alteration of the cell membrane, endothelial derived factors, they would lead to vascular constriction and increased peripheral resistance. Other important is structural vascular hypertrophy, which is caused by excess stimulation of the renin-angiotensin system, sympathetic nervous system overactivity, genetic alteration of cell membrane, endothelial derived factors and hyperinsulinemia resulting from the metabolic syndrome. In nutshell, this all can be the causes of development of hypertension. Now we start with what is hypertension. Till now we have discussed the normal blood pressure, how it is maintained, anatomical maintenance, physiological sites for maintenance, and normal blood pressure range is said that 120/80. Whenever blood pressure is raised more than that, patient can be considered as hypertension. But to define or label the patient as hypertensive, there should be sustained increase into the blood pressure more than 140/90 mmHg for 3 different occasions, and it should be measured after relaxing the patient. And it is one of the most significant risk factor for all the cardiovascular diseases. Normal blood pressure is less than 120 and less than 80 diastolic. Prehypertensive is systolic blood pressure 120 to 139 or diastolic is 80 to 89. Stage 1 hypertension is 140 to 159 or diastolic 90 to 99, and stage 2 hypertension is more than 160 mmHg or diastolic more than or equal to 100 mmHg. This is based on the JNC classification of hypertension, which is updated every year. So you should be also updating this classification for your reference. Now we see the etiology of hypertension, how it develops. Hypertension is of two varieties. One is essential hypertension, which is present into more than 90% of cases which are encountered into the OPD, and there is always a hereditary component. And other type of hypertension is secondary hypertension, which is present into less than 10% of cases, where the hypertension is a symptom of some other disease. Hypertension occurs because of the other pathological conditions like chronic kidney disease, renovascular disease, certain prescription drugs, drugs of abuse, certain natural products, food, industrial chemicals. They have tendency to raise the blood pressure, and if hypertension occurs as a result of this condition, then it is called as secondary hypertension. Secondary causes of hypertension include diseases like chronic kidney disease, Cushing syndrome, contraction of the aorta, obstructive sleep apnea, parathyroid disease, pheochromocytoma, primary aldosteronism, renovascular disease and thyroid disease. Prescription drugs like amphetamine, sibutramine, corticosteroids, cyclosporine, nasal decongestant, which are commonly used over the counter drugs, ergot alkaloids, erythropoietin, estrogen containing oral contraceptive pills, and most importantly known as painkillers or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They will cause increase into the blood pressure. Drugs or abuse, which are street drugs and other products like cocaine, cocaine withdrawal, nicotine and its withdrawal, anabolic steroid, narcotic withdrawal, St. John warts. These are the drugs which can cause hypertension. And food substance like consumption of sodium and alcohol can cause hypertension. And why hypertension is so essential in cardiovascular system? Because it sustained rise in blood pressure or untreated hypertension can lead to target organ damage. Hypertension would lead to increase in the afterload. Whenever increase in the afterload, what happens? Systolic dysfunction occurs, left ventricular hypertrophy occurs, which would lead to diastolic dysfunction, and when systolic and diastolic both dysfunction combined, ultimately there is heart failure. Increase in the afterload will lead to increased myocardial oxygen demand, which would lead to myocardial ischemia and infarction, simply known as heart attack. Sustained hypertension would lead to arterial damage. So there is accelerated atherosclerosis or narrowing of the lumen. When narrowing of the lumen occurs into coronary vessels, it would decrease myocardial oxygen supply, lead to myocardial ischemia and infarction or heart attack. When this atherosclerosis affects cerebral vessels, it would lead to ischemic stroke. When it affects aorta, there would be aortic aneurysm and aortic dissection. Sometimes because of the arterial damage, there is weakened vessel wall. When cerebral vessels are weakened, there would be hemorrhagic stroke. Renal vessels are weakened, it would lead to nephrosclerosis and renal failure. And when they affect the ophthalmic vessels, it would lead to retinopathy. So ultimately, they can damage kidney, eyes, brain, heart, and patient is usually dead because of this complication. That is why it is very essential to understand hypertension and to treat it. And the last point is classification of antihypertensive drugs. Antihypertensive drugs can be diuretics like thiazide diuretic, loop diuretic, potassium sparing diuretics. They can be sympatholytic drugs like alpha blocker, beta blocker, combined alpha and beta blocker, centrally acting and cholinergic centrally acting adrenergic agents and adrenergic neuron blocking agents. Calcium channel blockers, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, AT1 receptor antagonist, vasodilators, which can be arterial dilator and arterial and venous combined dilators. So this finishes our understanding of hypertension, its pathophysiology, and the drugs which are used for the management of hypertension. And from the next class, we will be starting with the individual drugs class. Hope you have understood the topic, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you.